The hallways of Brighton Tech still smelled of fresh paint and ambition back in 2001. It was a startup with big dreams, housed in a modest 3-story building on the outskirts of the city. And it was here that Raj first pushed his cleaning cart through the door, his work uniform still stiff and new. He was 23 years old, with nothing but a high school diploma and determination in his pockets. The night shift janitor position wasn't glamorous, but it paid enough to cover rent and send a little money back home to his parents. Night shift means nobody bothers you, his supervisor had told him during the brief orientation. Just make sure everything's clean before the fancy folks arrive in the morning. What the supervisor didn't know was that Raj had taken this specific job for a reason. During his interview, he had noticed the rows of computers, the white boards filled with diagrams, and something inside him had clicked. He wanted to learn what happened in those rooms during daylight hours. The first few weeks were exactly what you'd expect: mopping floors, emptying trash bins, and cleaning bathrooms. Raj did his work thoroughly and quickly, which left him with something precious: time. While the building sat empty and quiet, he began staying a little longer after his shift. On his third week, he finally worked up the courage. After completing his duties, he sat down at one of the computers. It was still warm from being used earlier that day. His heart raced as he pressed the power button, half expecting alarms to sound. Nothing happened except the gentle whir of the machine coming to life. Raj had used computers at the public library before, but nothing as new or powerful as this. He opened programs, clicked through menus, and tried to make sense of what he found. Most of it was locked behind passwords, but some basic applications were accessible. Every night after that, he gave himself 1 hour of computer school, as he called it. He discovered a folder of training materials someone had left on the desktop. Basic coding tutorials, marketing plans, product roadmaps. He devoured them all. "Who's been using the computers at night?" he overheard one day as he was ending his shift, ducking behind a wall as 2 programmers walked by. "The logs show someone's been on workstation 12 almost every night." "Probably Bob working overtime again," the other replied with a laugh. "You know how he is." Raj knew he needed to be more careful. The next night, he brought a notebook and began copying information by hand instead. Page after page filled with terms he didn't understand: Java, SQL, customer acquisition costs, profit margins. He'd look them up later at the library. 3 months into the job, disaster struck. While cleaning the executive floor, Raj accidentally knocked over a cup of coffee someone had left on their desk. The dark liquid spread across important-looking papers, charts, graphs, and what appeared to be a presentation for the next day. Panicking, he tried to dry everything, but the damage was done. Raj stayed 2 hours past his shift trying to recreate what he could from the ruined documents. He had seen enough of the company's materials by now to understand their formatting and style. Using one of the computers, he rebuilt the basic charts from the soggy remains of the originals. When he finally left, he placed his handwritten note of apology on top of the salvaged and recreated documents. The next night, he came to work expecting to be fired. Instead, he found a note taped to his cart. "Please see me in my office before you start your shift. Kumar, VP of Product Development." Raja's hands trembled as he knocked on the office door at the end of the hallway. "Come in," called a voice. Inside sat a middle-aged man with kind eyes and a serious expression. On his desk lay the presentation materials Raj had tried to save. "You're the janitor who did this?" Kumar asked, gesturing to the papers. "Yes, sir. I'm very sorry about the spill. It was an accident, and I..." Kumar raised a hand to stop him. "I'm not concerned about the spill. These things happen. I'm interested in how you managed to recreate these charts without access to the original data." Raj shifted uncomfortably. "I've been learning, sir. At night, after my work is done. I hope that's not a problem. Instead of anger, a smile spread across Kumar's face. Learning what, exactly? Everything I can, Raj admitted. I've been reading training materials, tutorials, anything I could find. I want to understand how businesses work, how computers work. Kumar leaned back in his chair, studying Raj with newfound interest. The charts you recreated were almost perfect. Better than some of our analysts could do. That takes both technical skill and an understanding of what the data means. Raj stood silently, unsure if he was being complimented or accused. We have an entry-level data entry position opening next week, Kumar said finally. The pay isn't much better than what you're making now, but it's daytime hours, and you'd be working with our analytics team. The words took a moment to sink in. Are you offering me a job? I'm offering you an opportunity, Kumar corrected. You clearly have potential and drive. That's rare. But you'll need to learn quickly and work twice as hard as everyone else to make up for your lack of formal education. Raj stood straighter, his eyes bright with determination. I can do that, sir. I believe you can, Kumar said, extending his hand. Consider this your first test. Be here Monday at 8 a.m., dressed for an office job, ready to start training. As Raj walked out of the building that night, the city lights seemed brighter somehow. He looked back at the Brighton Tech building, seeing it differently now. This wasn't just a place he cleaned anymore. Starting Monday, it would be the first step on a new path. He had no idea how far that path would take him, or how difficult the journey would be. But for the first time since leaving home, Raj felt something powerful stirring inside him, not just hope, but certainty. This was his chance, and he wasn't going to waste it. Little did he know, 20 years later, people would be telling the story of how Brighton Tech's famous CEO once started his career pushing a mop down these very halls. From Janitor to CEO, the inspiring story of one man's journey. Part 2. Monday morning arrived with a mixture of excitement and terror for Raj. He had spent his entire weekend at the public library, reading everything he could find about data entry, office etiquette, and business analytics. His only suit, bought secondhand the day before, felt stiff and a size too large, but he straightened his tie with determination as he walked through Brighton Tech's front door for the first time as an employee rather than a janitor. The receptionist did a double take. Can I help you? I'm Raj. I'm starting in data entry today. Mr. Kumar is expecting me. Her surprise was obvious, but she made a quick call and directed him to the second floor. Walking through the office during daylight hours felt surreal. The spaces he had only seen empty and silent were now buzzing with activity, people chatting by the water cooler, typing at computers, hurrying between meeting rooms with coffee cups in hand. Kumar greeted him with a firm handshake and introduced him to Priya, a senior analyst who would be training him. Her initial skepticism was thinly veiled. So you're the night janitor Kumar's been talking about, she said, showing him to a small desk wedged between filing cabinets. Let's see what you can do. The learning curve was brutal. Raj's first week was a blur of new software, unfamiliar jargon, and mountains of data that needed sorting and entering. He made mistakes, plenty of them, but stayed late every evening to fix his errors and practice. He brought a notebook everywhere, filling pages with terms to learn and questions to ask. Some coworkers were welcoming. Others weren't. You know he used to clean the toilets here, right? He overheard one analyst whispering in the break room. How did he even get this job? But Raj kept his head down and focused on improving. By the end of his first month, he had cut his error rate in half. By the end of the second month, Priya had stopped double-checking his work. You're catching on faster than most college grads we hire, she admitted one day. Whatever Kumar saw in you, I think he was right. 6 months into his new role, Raj had become an essential part of the analytics team. He had a knack for spotting patterns in data that others missed. During a particularly challenging quarter when the company was trying to understand why a new product wasn't selling well, Raj stayed late analyzing customer feedback data. The next morning, he nervously approached Kumar's office with his findings. "I think I found something in the numbers," he said, spreading out his handwritten notes and charts. "The problem isn't the product itself. It's that we're targeting the wrong customers." Kumar studied Raj's analysis with growing interest. "You cross-referenced location data with purchase patterns?" "Yes, and with customer service calls. The people who love our product are completely different from who our marketing team thinks is buying it." Kumar looked up at him. "Have you shown this to anyone else?" "No, sir. I wasn't sure if I should." "You'll present this at tomorrow's department meeting," Kumar decided. "This could change our entire strategy." Presenting to a room full of managers and executives, many with advanced degrees from prestigious universities, was the most terrifying thing Raj had ever done. His voice shook as he began explaining his findings, but as he delved into the data, confidence replaced nervousness. This was what he knew. This was what made sense to him. When he finished, the room was silent for a moment before erupting in questions. The marketing director wanted more details. The sales team needed clarification on certain points. But no one questioned whether the former janitor should be presenting to them, they only cared about the insights he had uncovered. That presentation changed everything. Within weeks, Raj was moved to a new position as a junior analyst with his own project assignments. His salary doubled, allowing him to move to a better apartment and send more money home to his parents. "Your son is doing very well," he overheard Kumar telling his father on the phone one day when his parents called the office, unable to reach him on his new mobile number. "He has a natural talent for business analytics. You should be very proud." The pride in his father's voice when Raj called him back that evening made all the late nights worth it. A year after starting as a data entry clerk, Raj was promoted again, this time to full analyst. He now had his own small team working under him and was involved in key company decisions. He enrolled in night classes at the local community college, slowly working toward a business degree while continuing his meteoric rise at Brighton Tech. Not everyone was happy about his success. Raj encountered resistance from some managers who couldn't see past his background and lack of formal education. Office politics became a new challenge, one that cleaning floors hadn't prepared him for. "They'll never see you as their equal," warned Priya, who had become a mentor and friend. "You need to be twice as good, twice as prepared, and twice as diplomatic as anyone else in this company." Raj took her advice to heart. When faced with skepticism, he responded with results. When confronted with doubts, he answered with data. His presentations became legendary for their thoroughness and insight. 3 years after that fateful coffee spill, Brighton Tech faced its biggest crisis. A larger competitor had launched a similar product at half the price, threatening to put them out of business. Emergency meetings were called, and cost-cutting measures were discussed, including potential layoffs. During one particularly tense executive meeting that Raj was asked to attend for his analytical expertise, the CEO asked the room for solutions, not just problems. While others spoke of retreat and damage control, Raj saw an opportunity. He had been studying the competitor's product in his spare time, testing it against their own. "May I speak?" he asked quietly. The CEO nodded, and all eyes turned to him. "I think we're looking at this all wrong," Raj began. "The competitor's product is cheaper because it's actually inferior in 3 key areas that our most loyal customers value highly." He pulled out his tablet and projected a detailed analysis onto the screen, showing exactly how they could reposition their product to emphasize these differences rather than competing on price. "Instead of retreating, we should attack, but on our terms, not theirs." As the room absorbed his strategy, the CEO's expression changed from skepticism to interest. By the end of the meeting, Raj's approach had become the core of their counter-strategy. No one in that room could have predicted that this former janitor would not only save the company from its biggest threat but was on a path to eventually lead it. But Raj was just getting started. The journey from the cleaning crew to the executive floor was about to enter its most challenging phase yet. Raj's counter-strategy against their competitor worked beyond anyone's expectations. Within 6 months, Brighton Tech had not only retained their market share but expanded it. Sales were up 37% and the company's stock price had nearly doubled. For Raj, now 28 years old, life had changed dramatically from his janitor days. He had completed his associate's degree at the community college and was halfway through his bachelor's in business administration, still attending evening classes after full workdays. His small apartment had been replaced by a modest condo. The second-hand suit was now a wardrobe of business attire. Yet despite these outward changes, he maintained his humility and work ethic. Success is just solving one problem after another, he often told his team. And never forgetting where you started. His rise through the company ranks continued when the CEO, impressed by his handling of the competitor crisis, appointed him Director of Strategic Planning, a position typically reserved for someone with an MBA and at least 10 years of experience. This promotion placed him firmly in the executive ranks, with his own office overlooking the city. On his first day in the new position, a familiar face appeared at his door. "Congratulations," said Kumar, now the company's chief operating officer. "Not bad for a guy who once mopped these floors." Raj smiled. "I had good teachers." "You had good instincts," Kumar corrected him. "But your real work is just beginning. From now on, your decisions will affect hundreds of employees and millions in revenue. The stakes are higher, and so are the risks." Those words proved prophetic. Raj's new role required him to make difficult decisions that affected people's livelihoods. When he had to recommend closing an underperforming division, he insisted on meeting personally with the affected employees to explain the situation and help them find new positions either within the company or elsewhere. "He remembers what it's like to worry about paying the rent," one employee remarked. "That's rare in management these days." This approach to leadership, combining data-driven decisions with genuine concern for people, became Raj's trademark. While other executives saw numbers on spreadsheets, he saw the human stories behind them. It wasn't always the easiest path, but it earned him loyalty from his teams and respect throughout the organization. Not that the path was smooth. Raj still encountered prejudice from those who couldn't see past his unconventional background. At industry conferences, he was often mistaken for junior staff rather than a company director. Some clients raised eyebrows when meeting him, expecting someone older and with more prestigious credentials. "Let them underestimate you," advised Priya, now a vice president herself. "It gives you the advantage of surprise." 5 years into his role as director, Brighton Tech faced a new challenge, a potential merger with a larger international corporation. The CEO assembled a special team to evaluate the offer, with Raj as its head. For weeks, he pored over financial statements, market projections, and cultural assessments of both companies. The numbers looked promising. The merger would create immediate value for shareholders and open new markets. Yet something didn't feel right. During a meeting with the potential acquirer's executive team, Raj noticed how they spoke about Brighton's employees as assets to be optimized rather than people with skills and knowledge. Their 5-year plan included eliminating nearly 30% of Brighton's workforce. Back at Brighton, the boardroom was divided. Many directors saw the merger as inevitable, a golden parachute for executives and a windfall for shareholders. When it came time for Raj to present his findings, he took a deep breath and projected not the expected charts showing financial benefits, but images of the company's employees, engineers, sales representatives, administrative staff, and yes, the cleaning crew. "These are the people who built this company," he began. "They're the reason we've succeeded where others failed." The merger makes financial sense on paper, but it would destroy what makes us special. He then revealed his alternative, a detailed 5-year growth plan that would keep the company independent while expanding into new markets. It was ambitious but built on the company's core strengths. We can chase short-term profits, or we can build something that lasts, he concluded. I believe we should choose the latter. The room fell silent. The CEO looked troubled, caught between shareholder expectations and Raj's passionate defense of the company's independence. The board votes tomorrow, he said finally. We'll see which vision prevails. That night was the longest of Raj's career. He had put everything on the line, possibly even his job, to fight for what he believed was right. As he walked into the boardroom the next morning, faces were grim. The CEO stood. The board has reached a decision. After careful consideration of both options, we've decided to pursue Raj's growth strategy and remain independent. Relief washed over him, but there was little time to celebrate. Implementing the ambitious plan would require extraordinary effort from everyone. The next 2 years were the most challenging of Raj's career. His growth strategy faced setbacks and required adjustments. There were times when the easier path of merger looked tempting in retrospect. But he persevered, working alongside his teams to solve each problem as it arose. Then came the unexpected news that shook the company to its core. The CEO announced his retirement due to health concerns, effective immediately. The board needed to appoint a successor. Kumar, now in his early 60s, was the obvious choice as COO. But he surprised everyone by declining the position. I'm also planning to retire within the year, he explained to the board. Brighton Tech needs leadership that can see it through the next decade, not just the next few quarters. When the board asked for his recommendation, Kumar didn't hesitate. Raj has shown extraordinary vision and leadership. He knows every aspect of this business, from the janitorial closets to the boardroom. More importantly, he understands that a company is not just balance sheets and products, it's people. The board was divided. Some members couldn't look past Raj's unconventional path and lack of an Ivy League MBA. Others were concerned about his age. At 35, he would be unusually young for a CEO. He's faced doubters his entire career, Kumar told them. And he's proven them wrong every time. After 3 days of deliberation, the board called Raj into the conference room. 12 pairs of eyes turned to him as he took a seat. We've reached a decision, the board chair announced. Brighton Tech's next chapter requires bold leadership. Someone who truly understands what makes this company special. Raj held his breath, preparing himself for any outcome. We're offering you the position of Chief Executive Officer, effective immediately. In that moment, the journey that had begun in the quiet hallways with a mop and bucket reached a milestone no one, not even Raj himself, could have imagined. The janitor was now CEO. But as he would soon discover, reaching the top was only the beginning of his greatest challenge yet. From Janitor to CEO, the inspiring story of one man's journey. Part 4. The news spread through Brighton Tech like wildfire. The janitor is now our CEO. For some, it was an inspiring story of meritocracy in action. For others, particularly some long-serving executives who had coveted the position themselves, it was a bitter pill to swallow. Raj's first day as CEO began with a company-wide email announcing his appointment, followed by a town hall meeting where he addressed all employees. 12 years ago, I pushed a mop down these hallways, he began, his voice steadied despite his nerves. Today, I stand before you as CEO. But the most important thing I want you to know is that I'm still the same person who believes in hard work, honesty, and treating people with respect. He outlined his vision for the company, continuing the growth strategy he had championed, but with renewed focus on innovation and employee development. Every person in this company has potential that goes beyond their current role, he said. I'm living proof of that. And as your CEO, I'm committed to creating an environment where everyone has the opportunity to grow and contribute their best ideas." The applause was enthusiastic, but Raj knew that goodwill alone wouldn't sustain him. He needed to prove himself worthy of the position through results. His first major test came quickly. A week into his new role, the company's largest client threatened to take their business elsewhere unless Brighton Tech could match a competitor's significantly lower pricing. The account represented nearly 20% of their annual revenue. After analyzing the situation with his team, Raj realized they couldn't match the price without compromising quality or cutting staff. Instead of capitulating or simply losing the client, he requested a personal meeting with their CEO. "I'm not here to negotiate on price," Raj told the surprised executive. "I'm here to show you the value you're getting that doesn't appear on an invoice." He presented a detailed analysis of how Brighton Tech's products had increased the client's efficiency and reduced their costs over the past 3 years, savings that far outweighed the price difference. "Anyone can offer you a cheaper product," Raj concluded. "We're offering you a better future." The client not only stayed but expanded their contract for an additional 5 years. This early win bought Raj credibility, but the challenges of leadership were relentless. While he had mastered the technical and strategic aspects of business, he now faced the complex dynamics of leading a diverse executive team, many of whom had more traditional backgrounds than his own. Sunil, the chief financial officer who had been with the company for 20 years, was particularly resistant to Raj's leadership style. "With all due respect," Sunil said during one heated executive meeting, "some of us earned our positions through years of education and experience, not by being in the right place at the right time." The room fell silent. Everyone waited for Raj's response. "You're right about one thing, Sunil," Raj replied calmly. "I was in the right place, cleaning these offices at night while studying everything I could about this business. As for the right time, it was every day for the past 12 years when I chose to work harder than was expected of me." He paused, looking around the table. "Everyone at this table has earned their position. Including me. And now we all have the same responsibility, to earn it again every day through our decisions and results." From that day forward, Sunil's attitude slowly changed. He never became Raj's strongest supporter, but he developed a grudging respect for the new CEO's unwavering commitment to the company's success. As months passed, Raj's leadership began to transform Brighton Tech. He implemented a new mentorship program pairing executives with promising employees from all levels of the organization. He created an innovation lab where any employee could submit ideas for new products or improvements to existing ones. And most controversially, he opened up the company's financial data to all employees, believing that transparency would build trust and shared purpose. "If the janitor understands how his work contributes to our bottom line," he explained to skeptical board members, "he's more likely to care about doing it well." Not all of his initiatives succeeded. A bold attempt to enter the consumer market failed spectacularly, costing the company millions and leading to the first quarterly loss under his leadership. The board called an emergency meeting. "I made a mistake," Raj admitted straightforwardly. "I pushed us into a market we didn't understand well enough." Instead of making excuses, he presented a detailed plan to recover from the setback, including personal accountability measures for himself. "I'm recommending that my own compensation be tied directly to our recovery from this mistake," he said. "If we don't return to profitability within 2 quarters, I'll resign." This level of accountability impressed even his strongest critics on the board. They approved his recovery plan unanimously. The company did recover, faster than anyone expected. Raj worked tirelessly, focusing the entire organization on their core strengths while carefully rebuilding their financial cushion. By the end of the second quarter, they were not only profitable again but had regained most of the market value they had lost. 2 years into his role as CEO, Raj faced a personal milestone, completing his bachelor's degree in business administration. Despite his executive schedule, he had continued his evening classes, often studying late into the night after long days at the office. The university wanted to make a media event of his graduation, promoting the story of a CEO still completing his undergraduate education. Raj declined the publicity. "This is about finishing what I started," he told the disappointed public relations director. "Not about getting attention for it." On graduation day, however, he was surprised to find the auditorium's front row filled with familiar faces: Kumar, Priya, and several other colleagues from throughout his career at Brighton Tech. Even more surprising was the presence of his first supervisor from his janitor days, now long retired. "We wouldn't miss it," Kumar said, embracing him after the ceremony. "Some journeys deserve to be witnessed." That evening, as they celebrated over dinner, Raj's old supervisor raised a toast. "I remember telling this young man that the night shift meant nobody would bother him," he said with a chuckle. "Little did I know he'd go bothering every computer in the building to teach himself our business." As laughter filled the room, Raj felt a profound sense of gratitude. His path had been unconventional, but it had never been a solo journey. Every step of the way, someone had seen his potential and helped him move forward, from Kumar giving him his first opportunity to the board taking a chance on him as CEO. "Thank you all," he said simply, "for believing in me, sometimes before I believed in myself." What he didn't know then was that his greatest leadership challenge still lay ahead, one that would test not just his business acumen, but his deepest values and the very future of the company he had given his life to build. 3 years into Raj's tenure as CEO, Brighton Tech had transformed from a mid-sized regional player into a nationally recognized technology firm. Annual revenue had doubled. The workforce had grown from 500 to over 1,200 employees. And the company culture had become legendary in the industry for its emphasis on internal promotion and employee development. The Brighton Way, as business magazines called it, attracted attention from competitors and entrepreneurs alike. Raj frequently received invitations to speak at conferences and business schools about his unorthodox leadership journey and approach. "Success isn't about where you start," he would tell these audiences. "It's about how willing you are to learn, how hard you're willing to work, and how well you treat people along the way." These weren't just words to him. Raj had institutionalized these values at Brighton Tech through concrete policies. The company now had a formal program that identified promising employees from every department, including maintenance, security, and food service, and provided them with training and advancement opportunities. They called it the Full Circle program, a nod to Raj's own journey from janitor to CEO. Amit was one of the program's first success stories, a security guard who had been teaching himself coding during quiet overnight shifts. After completing the Full Circle program, he was now leading one of Brighton's most innovative software development teams. "Mr. Raj saw himself in me," Amit told a documentary crew filming a piece about the company. "But more importantly, he created a system where others could see potential in people like me too." Not everyone in the business world approved of Raj's approach. Critics argued that his emphasis on promoting from within and investing heavily in employee development came at the expense of shareholder returns. While Brighton Tech was profitable, its profit margins weren't as high as some competitors who operated with leaner workforces and less generous benefits. These criticisms came to a head during the annual shareholders' meeting in Raj's 4th year as CEO. A group of influential investors led by hedge fund manager Victor Reynolds publicly challenged Raj's leadership approach. "While we appreciate the human interest story of your background," Reynolds said during the open question period, his voice carrying across the hushed auditorium, "the reality is that this company is leaving money on the table. Your employee costs are 22% higher than industry average, and your insistence on manufacturing in local communities rather than outsourcing overseas is costing shareholders millions in potential returns." Raj listened carefully, showing no reaction to the confrontational tone. When Reynolds finished, Raj thanked him for his input and then asked permission to respond with data rather than emotion. You're absolutely right that our employee costs are higher than average, Raj began, projecting a series of charts onto the large screen behind him. But our employee retention rate is 89% compared to the industry average of 68%. The cost of recruiting and training replacements for the additional turnover would exceed our current investments in our workforce. Chart after chart appeared, showing how Brighton Tech's approach translated into measurable business advantages, from higher quality products with fewer defects to stronger customer loyalty and repeat business. As for manufacturing locally, Raj continued, we've calculated the total cost including quality control, transportation, and inventory management. The apparent savings from overseas production largely disappear when you factor in these variables, not to mention the brand value we've built as an American manufacturer. He concluded by showing the company's 5-year stock performance against major competitors. Brighton had outperformed all but one. We're building a company for long-term success, not just next quarter's numbers, Raj said. And the data shows our approach is working. The room erupted in applause. Reynolds and his group were visibly displeased, but the majority of shareholders were convinced. The vote to endorse the current leadership direction passed with a comfortable margin. As Raj was leaving the meeting, an elderly woman approached him, one of the company's original investors who had held her shares for over 20 years. My husband and I invested in Brighton because we believed in building things that last, she told him. Thank you for remembering that a company is more than just its stock price. That vote of confidence carried Raj through the next challenge, which came unexpectedly from outside the company. A massive data breach at a competitor sent shockwaves through the industry and raised urgent questions about security at all technology firms. Customers, regulators, and the media all turned their attention to how other companies, including Brighton Tech, were protecting sensitive information. Rather than issuing reassuring but vague statements as many competitors did, Raj took a characteristically transparent approach. He authorized a comprehensive third-party security audit of all Brighton Tech systems and promised to make the results public, good or bad. Our customers trust us with their data, he explained to nervous board members. We owe them honesty about how we're protecting it. The audit revealed some significant vulnerabilities that had gone unaddressed. Instead of hiding these findings, Raj held a press conference where he personally detailed both the problems and the company's plan to fix them. We've fallen short of the standard our customers deserve, he admitted. And that's on me as CEO. We're allocating $40 million immediately to address these issues and establishing a new executive position, Chief Security Officer, reporting directly to me. This level of transparency was unprecedented in the industry. While Brighton's stock took an immediate hit, customer response was overwhelmingly positive. By acknowledging problems before they led to an actual breach, Raj had reinforced trust in the company's integrity. 6 months later, when the security upgrades were completed, Brighton launched a new marketing campaign centered on data protection. Their honesty during the security review gave these claims credibility that competitors couldn't match. Sales of their enterprise products, where security was a primary concern, increased by 34% over the following year. As his 5th year as CEO approached, Raj faced questions about his future. Business leaders of his caliber were often lured away by larger companies or left to start their own ventures. Rumors circulated that he had received offers with compensation packages several times his current salary. During the company's annual retreat, Kumar, who had delayed his retirement to serve as a special advisor, asked him directly about these rumors during a private moment. I won't pretend I haven't been approached, Raj admitted. The money would be nice, especially to help my parents in their retirement. But this company gave me a chance when no one else would. These people believed in me. I can't imagine walking away from that to chase a bigger paycheck. Kumar nodded approvingly. I figured as much. But there's another way to think about your journey, you know. What's that? Raj asked. Sometimes the greatest achievement isn't climbing to the top yourself, Kumar said thoughtfully. It's building a ladder that others can use to follow you. Those words stayed with Raj as he contemplated Brighton Tech's future and his role in it. He had achieved what once seemed impossible, rising from janitor to CEO through determination and support from key mentors. But perhaps his true legacy wouldn't be his personal success story. Perhaps it would be how many others he could help write their own success stories. What he couldn't know then was that his commitment to this vision would soon be tested in ways he never imagined, as economic headwinds and technological disruption threatened everything he had built. From Janitor to CEO, the inspiring story of one man's journey. Part 6. The global economic downturn hit like a hurricane with little warning. What began as troubling financial news from overseas markets quickly cascaded into a full-blown crisis that affected every industry. Technology companies were hit particularly hard as businesses slashed budgets and delayed purchases of new systems. 6 years into his tenure as CEO, Raj faced the most difficult challenge of his career. Brighton Tech's revenues dropped by 28% in a single quarter. The stock price fell to half its previous value. For the first time since his earliest days as CEO, serious questions arose about the company's future and his leadership. Emergency board meetings were called. Financial advisors recommended immediate and dramatic cost-cutting measures, specifically, laying off at least 30% of the workforce to preserve cash until the market recovered. Every other company in our sector is doing it, the lead advisor explained, showing slides of competitor announcements. Wall Street expects it. Your shareholders demand it. Raj listened quietly, taking notes as various experts presented increasingly dire scenarios. When they finished, the room fell silent, all eyes turning to him for a decision. "Thank you all for your analysis," he said finally. "I'll need 24 hours before making any announcements." That night, Raj didn't go home. Instead, he walked the halls of Brighton Tech, visiting every department, from engineering to the call center to the loading docks. He spoke with night shift workers, many of whom reminded him of himself years earlier. He reviewed personnel files and performance data, project timelines and customer commitments. At 5 a.m., he found himself in the janitor's closet where he had once stored his mop and cleaning supplies. The space had been modernized like the rest of the building, but the essential functions remained the same. He sat on an overturned bucket, remembering his earliest days at the company, when his dreams had seemed so distant. By the time the board reconvened the next morning, Raj had formulated a plan unlike anything they expected. "I will not authorize mass layoffs," he announced firmly. "We built this company on the principle that our people are our greatest asset. I won't abandon that principle the moment it becomes financially inconvenient." The room erupted in protests. Board members argued that his emotional attachment to employees was clouding his business judgment. Advisors warned that Wall Street would punish the stock even further. Raj held up his hand for silence. "Instead, I'm proposing something different. A shared sacrifice approach." He outlined his alternative, a temporary 15% salary reduction for all employees earning above the median company salary, with deeper cuts for executives, including a 50% reduction for himself. A 4-day work week for most departments to reduce operational costs. Voluntary early retirement packages for those near retirement age. And most controversially, a program allowing employees to exchange a portion of their salary for company stock at a guaranteed discount. These measures will achieve the same cost reductions as layoffs, he explained. But they preserve our talent, our culture, and our capacity to grow when the economy recovers. The plan was risky. It depended on employee buy-in and would still face skepticism from Wall Street. Several board members remained strongly opposed. "And if this doesn't work?" one asked bluntly. "If we continue to bleed cash? Then I'll resign," Raj answered without hesitation. "And the next CEO can try a different approach. But I believe in our people. And I believe they'll reward that belief with loyalty and effort that no balance sheet can fully measure." After heated debate, the board narrowly approved his plan. The next day, Raj addressed the entire company, joining smaller groups throughout the day to answer questions honestly about the challenges ahead. "I'm not asking you for sacrifices I'm not making myself," he told them. "And I'm not promising this will be easy. But I am promising that we'll face this together, as one company." The response surprised even Raj. 97% of eligible employees accepted the reduced schedule and salary adjustments. Many expressed gratitude at being given options rather than simply shown the door. The early retirement program was oversubscribed, with several long-serving employees explicitly stating they wanted to make room for younger colleagues. Most remarkable was the salary for stock program. Employees at all levels, from vice presidents to maintenance staff, opted to take a portion of their compensation in company shares, effectively betting their own financial futures on Brighton's recovery. Raj was moved to tears when the janitor who had replaced him years earlier showed him how much of his modest salary he had converted to company stock. "Why would you take that risk?" Raj asked him. The man shrugged. "You did the same for us. And everyone knows your story. If the janitor can become CEO, then his company is worth betting on." The media dubbed Brighton's approach the solidarity strategy, in contrast to the mass layoffs happening across the industry. Initially, Wall Street analysts were skeptical, predicting the company was merely delaying inevitable cuts. The first 2 quarters were brutal. Despite the cost-saving measures, Brighton still operated at a loss. Some board members renewed their calls for more dramatic action. A few key employees left for competitors who could offer full salaries. But by the 3rd quarter, something remarkable began to happen. While the economy remained weak, Brighton's productivity and innovation accelerated. Employees working reduced hours found ways to accomplish more with less. New product ideas emerged from cross-functional teams who were determined to help the company survive. Most significantly, customer loyalty strengthened. In an industry where companies were desperate to cut costs, Brighton's commitment to maintaining service quality by preserving its workforce resonated with clients facing similar challenges. They didn't abandon their people when times got tough, the CIO of a major client explained in a business magazine interview. "That tells me they won't abandon us either." By the 4th quarter, Brighton had returned to profitability, modest, but significant given the economic environment. By the end of the following year, as the economy began its slow recovery, the company was outperforming competitors who had slashed their workforces and were now struggling to rebuild capacity. The board meeting on the 2nd anniversary of the crisis had a very different tone. The same financial advisors who had insisted on layoffs now presented data showing that Brighton's solidarity strategy had positioned them ideally for the recovery. The stock price had not only rebounded but reached new highs, creating significant wealth for the employees who had exchanged salary for shares. "You were right," admitted the board member who had been most vocal in opposing Raj's plan. "And I was wrong. By standing by your principles, you achieved better results than conventional wisdom would have predicted." Raj accepted the acknowledgement graciously, but privately credited the company's success to the collective effort of its people. That evening, he sent a company-wide email announcing that all salary reductions would be reversed and compensated retroactively through bonus payments. The message included a personal note: "2 years ago, I asked you to believe in this company's future when many doubted it. You did more than believe, you invested your time, effort, and even your earnings in our shared success. That act of faith deserves to be rewarded, and it will be." What he didn't know was that this triumph would lead to an unexpected personal crossroads, one that would force him to make the most difficult decision of his remarkable career. From Janitor to CEO, the inspiring story of one man's journey. Part 7. 8 years into Raj's tenure as CEO, Brighton Tech had become more than just a successful company, it was a case study in ethical leadership and sustainable growth. Business schools included Raj's solidarity strategy in their curriculum. His speaking invitations now came from around the world. And most meaningful to him, dozens of companies had adopted similar programs to identify and develop talent from all levels of their organizations. On the 10th anniversary of his appointment as CEO, Brighton Tech held a gala celebration. The company had grown to over 3,000 employees with offices in 12 countries. Its stock value had increased eightfold since Raj first took the position. The event was attended by business leaders, politicians, and media figures eager to celebrate what many called the Brighton miracle. Kumar, now fully retired but still a close mentor to Raj, gave a moving speech about their journey together. When I first met Raj, he was cleaning up a coffee spill and trying not to get fired, Kumar said to appreciative laughter. What impressed me wasn't just his initiative in recreating those ruined documents, it was the humanity behind his effort. He didn't want someone else to get in trouble for his mistake. That same humanity has guided every decision he's made as CEO. When it was Raj's turn to speak, he surprised everyone by inviting to the stage not just executives, but employees from throughout the company, including Deepa, the current head of janitorial services. The story people tell about Brighton Tech is often my story, Raj said. But the real story is about all of us, how we built something together that none of us could have built alone. The celebration marked a pinnacle in Raj's career. At 45, he had achieved more than he had ever dreamed possible when he first pushed that mop down Brighton's hallways. Yet in the quiet moments following the gala, he found himself wondering what came next. That question was answered sooner than he expected. A week after the anniversary celebration, Raj received a call from the Prime Minister's office. The government was launching a major initiative to revitalize opportunity in underserved communities across the country. They wanted Raj to lead it, not as a ceremonial figurehead, but as someone who could translate his business approach to public service. Your story resonates with millions of people who feel invisible in our economy, the Prime Minister told him during their private meeting. And your methods have proven that investing in people isn't just morally right, it's economically smart. We need that perspective at a national level. The offer was compelling, but accepting it would mean leaving Brighton Tech, the place that had been his home for over 20 years. For days, Raj wrestled with the decision, seeking counsel from those he trusted most. Priya, now Brighton's chief operating officer, was characteristically direct. The question isn't whether you can do more good there than here, she told him. The question is whether Brighton still needs you as CEO, or whether your greatest contribution now would be showing that this company can thrive even without you. Kumar offered similar wisdom. Great leaders know when to lead and when to step aside, he said. Your greatest achievement might be building a company that embodies your values so deeply that it doesn't depend on your presence to maintain them. The final perspective came from an unexpected source. During a late evening at the office, Raj found Amit, the former security guard who now headed one of Brighton's most successful divisions, working late. I heard about the government offer, Amit said. Everyone's talking about it. What do you think I should do? Raj asked. Amit considered the question carefully. When I was a security guard studying coding on night shifts, I wasn't just hoping for a better job. I was hoping to become someone who could make a difference. You gave me that chance. Maybe now you can give that chance to millions more. After 2 weeks of reflection, Raj called a special board meeting to announce his decision. The room was tense as board members and executives anticipated his words. For 22 years, Brighton Tech has been my home, he began. I've had the privilege of growing with this company from janitor to CEO. But the true measure of any leader isn't how high they climb, it's what they build that lasts beyond them. He paused, looking around at the faces that had become like family. I've accepted the Prime Minister's offer to lead the National Opportunity Initiative. This means I'll be stepping down as CEO in 3 months, once we've ensured a smooth transition. Despite weeks of rumors, the announcement still sent shockwaves through the room. Questions came rapidly: who would succeed him? How would this affect the company's direction? What would shareholders think? I'm recommending to the board that Priya be appointed as the next CEO, Raj continued. She has been instrumental in our success and embodies the values that define Brighton. As for our direction, that isn't set by any one person, but by the culture we've built together. The transition period was intense. Raj worked closely with Priya to ensure continuity while preparing for his new role. News of his departure temporarily impacted the stock price, but Priya's appointment reassured markets that Brighton's core approach would continue. On his final day as CEO, Raj didn't want a grand farewell. Instead, he asked to spend time in each department, thanking people personally for their contributions. His last stop was the maintenance department, where he joined the evening cleaning crew for one shift, pushing a mop down the same hallways where his journey had begun. "Why are you doing this?" asked one young janitor who had only recently joined the company. "To remind myself where I came from," Raj replied. "And to remind everyone that there's dignity in every job in this building." Word spread quickly, and by the end of his shift, employees from throughout the company had gathered to walk with him as he completed his final circuit of the building. What began as a personal ritual became an impromptu parade of hundreds. As he pushed his cleaning cart through the lobby one last time, he was met by Kumar, Priya, Amit, and other key figures from throughout his journey. 22 years ago, you told me the night shift meant nobody would bother me," Raj said to his first supervisor, who had come out of retirement for the occasion. "I don't think either of us could have imagined where that night shift would lead." The following Monday, Raj began his new role leading the National Opportunity Initiative. Drawing on his experience at Brighton, he created programs that identified talent in overlooked communities, providing education, mentorship, and pathways to meaningful careers. What had worked for one company, he believed, could work for an entire nation. 5 years later, Brighton Tech continued to thrive under Priya's leadership. The company had expanded into new markets while maintaining its commitment to developing talent from within. The Full Circle program had been enhanced and now served as a model for other organizations worldwide. During the program's 15th anniversary celebration, a special guest was invited to give the keynote address, Raj, whose government initiative had helped thousands of people from disadvantaged backgrounds find pathways to better lives. As he stood at the podium, looking out at the company he had helped build and the successor who had taken it to new heights, he reflected on the incredible journey from that first night shift. "People often ask me for the secret to success," he told the audience. "They want to hear about determination or education or being in the right place at the right time. All of those matter. But what matters most is believing that every person has potential waiting to be discovered, including yourself." He gestured to the diverse faces before him, executives and entry-level employees, veterans and new hires, people from all backgrounds united by a shared culture. "The janitor who becomes CEO isn't the exception that proves the rule," he concluded. "It's the example that should change the rule. In the right environment, with the right opportunities and the right support, there's no limit to what people can achieve. That's not just Brighton's story or my story, it's the story I hope we can all help write together." As applause filled the room, Raj knew that his greatest legacy wasn't the positions he had held or even the company he had led. It was the countless doors that had opened because he had first pushed one open himself, and then worked tirelessly to ensure it remained open for others to follow. The journey from janitor to CEO had been remarkable. But even more remarkable was what that journey had inspired in others, the realization that with hard work, integrity, and opportunity, extraordinary things were possible. And that, Raj believed, was a story worth telling.